Hey, welcome to the Signet Podcast.
Do you want to start real estate investing? If so, you got to check out this advice from my friend Paul Sean. Paul Sean is a real estate developer based out of Los Angeles. I call him the Joe Rogan of real estate because he's an amazing world title jiu-jitsu artist. Take a look at these few clips of him doing stuff. Anyway, it's super interesting and you're sure to get a ton of value. Enjoy watching.
Here we go. I'm happy to finally get you on the podcast and learn about your company and everything you've done. Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, happily. So Paul Schoen, my company is Schoen Templer Partners. Me and my business partner Artem Templer started in 2009, and I'm an immigrant from Mexico City. My whole family moved to San Diego when I was 14 years old. We moved, went to high school, college, and then moved to Los Angeles. How I started my real estate career was I started brokering at Marcus & Millichap. And then while I was at Marcus & Millichap brokering, I met Artem, and he had just moved here from the East Coast. And while I was brokering, we partnered. We did some house flips together, and we created a good partnership. And that was 2009. And so we started from there. And now, 2022, we've flipped, built homes, and now built close to 30 apartment buildings.
I mean, the stuff you do is absolutely beautiful. I mean, even the homes, everything, it's so high end, and it's really cool to see all that stuff. So you actually started flipping homes at the beginning. That's kind of, I mean, I was curious on how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I was brokering. Artem had flipped a lot of homes in the East Coast, and he moved here, and it was a recession, and a lot of stuff in California was for sale. The housing market was destroyed. So he brought great expertise in this field. So we partnered up on a home in Compton, and then we did another one in Inglewood, and then we flipped homes all over South Central and Inglewood and Reseda and Van Nuys, all over the place. And we flipped around 50 homes. We scaled that business. So we started with one, see if there was a good partnership between us. And then we're like, all right, let's this works. So then we did two. And we're like, all right, let's scale this business. This is a good business. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of distressed properties, a lot of homes that just need upgrading. So we started, that's how we started. We started flipping all over the place. And then from like $200,000 homes in Compton, and then we built some like luxury mansions in like Hancock Park.
Wow.
And then we started building homes ground up while we were flipping. And then in 2012 is when we built our first apartment building. And that's when we pivoted completely out of home business and focused on apartment business.
In 2009, it wasn't easy to get loans. Did you have to have cash ready to deploy at that time?
Yeah, we used a lot of hard money loans, and then just private loans from people we knew.
Okay.
We would show them basically a business plan. It's like, look, we're buying the home for this. We're going to put this much into it, and we're going to sell it for this. There's our margin. Right. And we borrowed money from a lot of just people we knew and hard money loans.
Okay.
But yeah, there was no traditional financing for flipping.
So where did you start buying apartment buildings?
So while we were doing like 10, 15 homes at a time. And then my business partner found a great lot in Westchester. Okay. And we were just initially looking at it like, oh, can we flip this duplex? Right. And then we're like, wait, maybe we can develop this into a multifamily apartment building, because it was zoned for multifamily. And we were definitely concerned. It was like, we've built homes, but can we build a building? Yeah. And that was a journey of itself, building our first one. But we were successful at it, and we liked it, and we never looked back. We stopped doing homes and just fully focused on the apartment business.
So you're talking about ground up construction when you did that? Yeah. Wow. So that's how you went from point A to point now, I guess.
So I think that to simplify it, it's like from like changing cabinets and flooring and roofing to doing additions to homes,
Right.
then to building homes ground up, and then to building apartments ground up.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that was our transition.
That's crazy. One thing I'd love to point out too is that I love going on your website and seeing the cluster of all the properties you own in Southern California. I mean, it really does display how you're very in Southern California, the diversification of all the different areas in Southern California. Why Southern California of all markets?
So we're an vertically integrated company. So we do the construction, we do the development, we do the property management, we do the brokerage. If we sell them ourselves. So we wanted to be ultra focused in what we do. And development is a little different animal than value add. Development, knowing all the zoning in your city, knowing the right architects, the right engineers, the right subcontractors that work in this specific city, it is very specific to the city that you're at. So we picked city of LA. It's a big city. There's a lot of opportunity here, and we know what areas get good rents to justify the construction costs. So we just picked this. Honestly, it's only a 20 square mile radius that we focus on.
Wow.
And then we just target sites that we like, and but yeah, from the west side of West LA, from the ocean all the way to downtown, north of the 10 freeway, so and some good parts of the valley. That's where we build.
Wow. Okay, so when did you start vertically integrating, or you started construction in 2012? Was that when you started?
Well, we started building homes before that.
Right.
And how we got into the construction business is we kept getting screwed over by contractors.
Wow.
When we were doing homes.
Yeah.
So we kept getting screwed over, and we didn't know. We just would get a scope of work and an estimate, and sometimes they would just walk out of the sites, and we're like, well, what's left to do? How much is left? So we kept getting screwed over and screwed over. So we're like, we're going to be doing this in Los Angeles for the next 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Why don't we just bring everything in-house? Like, we can run have a good sized business in just developing in LA.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided to literally bring everything in-house, from property management to construction to just development and brokerage.
A lot of new people, and I see this in Colorado, they're starting to buy houses. They want to flip. They pull out equity. They do another house. And maybe it depends kind of answer, but at what point do you have to hire a property manager, or do you recommend hiring a third party or hiring people to help you property manage?
That's a tough question to answer. Our philosophy was similar to construction. We were going to do 40 years of business here from when we started to, we're going to do a big career here.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to bring everything in-house and control everything. And you hear nightmare stories about giving a great property to a bad property manager and doesn't work out so well. So we just decided we're going to be here for a long time. Let's just bring everything in-house.
Yeah.
If we do go out of state, and we do plan on bringing a third-party property manager that already has scale in that city. But here, we just figured we'd bring it in-house.
You know, we haven't had a ton of apartments, but I remember just having, at one point, I think we had 15 units. It started to get a little bit, Friday nights, I'd have to drag my son out of bed at 1 o'clock in the morning to go check on a plumbing issue, or, it would have been nice to start getting people. And some people have out-of-state properties, and they're not there to, take care of it. You were planning on doing this for 40 years. How did you find new deals? Land deals aren't always the easiest to find, the easiest to sort of understand what you can build. Deal flow is a huge part of your business that you've been able to continue getting new deals. How do you keep up the momentum?
So that's probably the hardest thing in this business is to find good land that makes sense for development, especially in a city like Los Angeles, because everything's built out. There's no empty land. So literally everything we've done is redevelopment. So we buy something that's existing and we knock it down and then build our buildings. So that's the most challenging part. We have 3 full-time cold callers calling properties that we target, that we know it makes sense based on the zoning, based on the lot size, lot width, and in areas where the rents justify our construction costs. So we have 3 full-time cold callers. We also send direct mail to property owners that we're interested in buying their lot. And but yeah, that's probably like in the 80-20 rule. That's part of the 20% that creates 80% of the results.
Yeah, deal flow is so valuable.
So
you know, it used to be that cash is king. I had somebody call me up the other day who was looking into real estate, and he was saying that deals are king now in a way, because just finding opportunities could be it's very scarce.
Yeah, 100%.
With regard, you know, co-living is something that you kind of are on the beginning of that revolution. What is co-living? How do you do co-living?
So co-living is a big, everyone can define it in many ways. So how I like to talk about it is what LA needs is more affordable housing. But it's so hard to build affordable housing in LA because land is expensive, labor is expensive, commodities are expensive. So it's just hard to build affordable. The appliances, the countertops, the flooring, that's 5%, maybe 10% of the budget at the most. All the commodities, the lumber, the land, and the labor, and the commodities, that's the expensive part.
Okay.
So why we like co-living, it's affordable. It's an affordable product where someone who just graduated college or is getting their first time job out of high school and they're making $30,000, $40,000 a year, it's unaffordable to live in LA in a nice new product. With the design that we do, they get to live in a brand new product, central air, washer dryer. They just get a little less space, and the design we like to do is basically micro suites.
Okay.
So everyone has their own bathroom and bedroom, and they just share, and they have a little kitchenette, and then they share a washer dryer with 3 other roommates.
Which totally makes sense, because it's not like you're doing your washer dryer 24/7.
Exactly.
So it's these co-living units, they're within the apartment building.
Yeah.
Do you need different kinds of zoning approvals for that kind of use, or?
No. The city's been okay with this as long as you do 5 bedrooms and under.
Okay.
They've been okay with it, and honestly, the city needs it. My conversations with them is like, we need more housing.
Yeah.
And we need more affordable housing.
Right.
And with this product, you're providing more affordable housing to the marketplace, because everyone in LA is building luxury high rises with pools and high-end amenities, and you have to be earning over $100,000 to live in one of those places. But with this, you can be earning $30,000, $40,000 and afford to live in one of these places, and it's nice.
Right. Okay.
And similar to our apartments, like with our co-living, it's more affordable. Our apartments, how we differentiate ourselves and what our niche is, we focus on more affordable than the luxury. So we don't have amenities in our buildings. We don't have pools. We don't have gyms. We don't have co-working areas that a lot of these newer buildings does. We just have a nice condo level finished apartment, but we can charge less because we don't have all these crazy amenities.
Okay.
So it's a price point less expensive than the luxury stuff.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
How does co-living with returns to the investment returns and all that compare to apartments?
The returns are much better. The returns are better because there's more people living in the same square footage, so your rent per square foot goes up.
Right. Okay.
Operationally, it's more work because now you're dealing with more people, but that's the demand. The demand wants affordable.
Okay.
So that's why we're very excited about this co-living product, because it's like not that many people can afford over $100,000 rents, but a lot of people can afford between the $30,000 and $80,000 rents.
Right. Okay. So I saw somewhere, and maybe I'm wrong, but did you or looking at a property in Austin, Texas?
Yeah.
Is that a new thing, or
Yeah, we're
I
going
didn't
out of
have a
state.
date on the article, but I'm like, wow, that's a good place to go, and it's very similar in a lot of ways. What made you go out there, and why'd you like that?
So 2020 happened,
Mm.
and some of our partners, investors, capital partners, are like, guys, we don't know what's going to happen with big cities. There's a lot of regulation in LA to build,
Right.
and it's hard to scale in Los Angeles. That's why we stay in the boutique product in Los Angeles. It's hard to build 100, 200 plus unit buildings here. So some of our partners are like, start looking out of state. Like, where are the jobs going?
Right.
So we did a whole matrix of different cities that we like, and Austin was one of the top. We like Austin. We like Las Vegas. We liked Phoenix, but one of our acquisition guys found a great site in Austin, Texas, 5 minutes away from the newly built Tesla
wow.
factory.
Oh wow. Okay.
To build a 400 unit apartment building. So it'd be our biggest apartment building.
Wow.
Yeah, we're currently entitling it. We already own the land,
That's great.
and hope we're breaking ground probably summer next year.
What's the key to raising money for your investors? You know, some people like to get 10,000 investors that don't invest very little. Some people have 4 family investors, family wealth, you know, high net worth families, and they've done very well. What's your
We mostly for our capital partners, we mostly work with 4 or 5 high net worth families
Okay.
that made a lot of money in real estate, and now they're want to be more passive and not do what we do, run
Yeah.
around looking for deals and building deals all day. So, and they trust us. They like what we're doing. They love Los Angeles real estate. They know how hard it is to add supply.
yeah.
So we partner with them, and most of our deals have been with them. We also have syndicated some deals, and we have friends all the time. They're like, hey, how can I get in one of your deals? And we accept smaller checks. So on occasions, we'll do some syndications,
Right.
but mostly it's with 4 or 5 high net worth families.
Okay, so this is a sort of a question of that. You know, with real estate, there's so many complexities. Just having properties and being a property owner. How do you, like, what similarities? You do jujitsu, Joe
Yeah.
Rogan of real estate. I have to say that because that's how I see you. Real estate, I mean, you've been on like some serious competitions, but you know, what similarities do you find in jujitsu and being this real estate guy that does construction, brokerage, property management, develop everything, and stay so at peace with yourself?
Yeah, I look. Sports has been a huge, just influence in my life. Just I was a pretty good wrestler. I wrestled in college, and then after wrestling, I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I was obsessed with it. I basically did it as almost another full-time job with my real estate. There's a lot of similarities, a ton of similarities. I think that the main one that I like is. When it comes to jiu-jitsu, all my training partners or people I competed against know that I'm pretty good at a very few moves.
Okay.
And with real estate, like we only focus on multifamily development in LA. Now, yes, we're trying to expand to another state, but especially when you start, being ultra focused and knowing what you're good at and what you should focus on, I think is a key to success. Just knowing where to zoom in on.
Right. Your unique value proposition.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's so interesting because you picked probably the way I see it is one of the most difficult, complicated ways to do it, from land all the way to ownership, and you do it really well, and you got to be good at so many disciplines to do that.
Yeah, well, but there's a negative, which is there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But the positive is there's a lot of barriers to entry.
Right.
So which is
right.
going to keep the supply low. So I feel very safe.
Yeah.
I know if I can build it, it'll rent and it'll be a good deal. I have to jump through a lot of hoops to get it built.
Yeah.
But so yeah, when there's a business that there's not a lot of barriers to entry, you're going to get oversaturated. With development in Los Angeles, which is one of the hardest cities to develop in, there's a lot of barriers to entry, so you're not going to see that much supply.
That's kind of, I always love going back to supply and demand
Yeah.
because that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I remember we were talking, me and my dad, a little while ago about properties that we have in Santa Monica, and to get them to be built is so hard.
So hard.
That you when you have it, it's priceless.
Yeah,
But,
I like almost cry every time we sell one of our buildings. I'm like, it was so hard to
Yeah,
build this.
yeah.
I don't want to sell it.
so that's another question. Are you a seller, or do you like to hold on long term?
We mostly like to hold on long term. Most of our partners like to hold on long
Yeah.
term. But sometimes if our capital partners want to say, hey, let's sell this one, we sell because they put up most of the capital. We understand that was the business plan.
Right.
We sell. Or another thing that we do is we partner up with landowners.
Okay.
So landowners will contact us and say, hey, I have this site. I'm not a developer. Can we do a joint venture together? You guys bring in the expertise and help me develop it. So it's not its highest and best use. Let's say it's a fourplex on a site we can build 30 units.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, I get it. Now you get the property's worth a lot more. That's its highest and best use, but they don't have the expertise or the know-how. So we come in and we do a joint venture and develop it together. And if they want to sell it, we sell it.
Well, that's kind of what I heard from you from my friend, that you guys were a sophisticated operation. I don't know, I'm sure you know that, but what's that mean to be sophisticated?
I think we have a lot of experience. So we've learned a lot. We've developed 30 buildings in this city.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to learn from what to look for in land, good architects versus bad architects, good subcontractors versus bad subcontractors. So in every time, in every building, after we complete it, we walk in and we're like, what can we improve? What could we have done better?
Yeah.
So you just keep learning as you go.
I'm just curious, because picking partners is a tricky thing. You and Artem have done, you've grown greatly. How do you guys complement each other, and why do you work so well together? What's the secret to a good partnership?
Look, we have our disagreements, but I think it's not that we don't fight. It's that we know how to make up after we fight.
Right.
So there's always going to be disagreements with your partners, but the key is, no, you guys shouldn't fight. No, the key is, but learn how to make up after there's a disagreement or
Right.
there's a fight. And we also separate roles and responsibilities.
Okay.
So I handle more of the pre-development and the financing. He handles more of the construction, and then he hands it back to me for the property management. So we
Okay.
just have separate roles and responsibilities.
Interesting. Yeah, partnerships I think could be a complicated thing. But yeah, you got to find the right people. Some people, they have too many similar skill sets, and they might have fun being together, but you're missing the partner that might not have that, like operations or financial spreadsheets or investor relations. So do you plan long term what your future plans are, in 20, 30 years? How do you
Yeah.
plan for
Well,
that?
before I answer that, one thing that I thought of going back to partnerships, I think the first thing you got to look at is values. It's like, do we have
Yeah.
similar values and similar goals? If the values and the goals are there, then we can figure out, okay, what are you competent at, and what am I competent at, and what am I not competent at, and then we allocate roles and responsibilities. But I think if the values and the goals align, it could be a great partnership. And right from the beginning, when Artem and I started, I knew that we had very similar values and goals, and the guy's a incredibly smart guy. So I'm honestly lucky to be in partnership with a guy. So, but most importantly, when looking at if values and goals align, I think you're on the right track.
I think that's huge. And I think a lot of people want to be in real estate, but they don't really know what it means to be in real estate or how they're going to be in real estate. It's like people argue about different things, but they have similar values. I think it's also the process of how to get to those things. Like your portfolio, your strategies seem to be, they're aligned. All your products seem to be very high end, I went on your website, everything is beautiful. I mean, the decoration, the designs of all your buildings are really, they're very attractive. So that's maybe part of the plan to, I think to be together on the same page.
Yeah, well, we're building something new, and it takes a long time to build. So if we build it, we're gonna make it look really nice.
Yeah. What do you think's the hardest part about what you do?
Finding the land.
Okay.
Like we were talking
Oh, yeah,
about
you said
earlier,
that,
finding
yeah.
the land is probably the most difficult part.
So speaking of finding land, how does intuition play into that?
I'm more of a numbers guy. I'm not an intuition guy. So
That's crazy though, because then that really makes a lot more sense. That's logical. I wish, sometimes it's easier to justify it that way.
yeah,
Because, sometimes you look, let's say you look at a value add and it's like, well, I bet it could do this much, but your intuition tells you the market might tell you a little bit, but some of it is still guesswork.
yeah,
The less intuition, the more market knowledge you can use to justify an investment, it makes a lot more sense to do.
100%. Like, yeah, we like the main thing that drives property values is rents.
Right.
So we're just touring buildings right and left in the areas that we like to build on, and really see what effective rents are getting, not what they're advertising on Zillow or Apartments.com. What real
Yeah.
rents are they getting? And so we tour so many of these buildings in the areas we want to build on, just to see if it justifies the construction or not, or the development or not, because we're going to spend 2 to 4 years in this process. So, and that initial rent study is so important for
Yeah.
every developer.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I was talking to a buddy about was just getting started in the due diligence. You got to have money to do your research and, all that. If somebody wanted to get started in real estate, what kind of money would it take? I mean, you do bigger projects, but would you recommend somebody sort of keep in the piggy bank to put out a deal that they might not do just to learn about the market?
Yeah, so a lot of my friends ask me this, or people that want to get into the business ask me this. And I think the best way to answer is like, okay, what's your network and what's your competitive advantage if you want to get started? So if you want to just, let's say you have a limited network, which I think is BS. I think everyone has a great network. They just don't go out and see who really is in their network, because everyone has either a wealthy relative or a friend who has a wealthy relative,
Right.
or a friend of a friend who has a
Right,
wealthy
right.
relative. Like three degrees of separation is real. So what I say is look at your competitive advantage, what you bring to the table, and you can either start with a smaller deal, how we did, flipping homes,
Yeah.
or you can partner up with a developer. I think, like I said, the hardest part to do is find a good piece of land. So if you go out there and you hustle and you find a good piece of property, you can call the developers in the area and say, "Hey, I have this site locked up. Let's partner. Like, give me a percentage of the carry or the promote, or I'll wholesale it to you. But I want to be involved and learn
Yeah.
all the steps from A to Z." We partner up with young guys. They bring us a good piece of dirt. We give them a 10% promote on our deal, and we teach them from A to Z, because maybe they do 1 or 2 deals with us, which is great, because we do more deals, and then they can go off on their own, and we're happy for them. There's 10,000 units being built in LA. We want to build 200 to 300 a year, so there's
Right.
plenty of apartments to be
That's
built.
the whole like scarcity mentality, I
Exactly.
remember reading somewhere that you can look at the world as a place of scarcity as abundance, and when
Yeah.
you look at it from abundance, opportunity comes. You don't feel like you're under the gun with everything. It's a much more peaceful way to have a
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely.
How are you preparing? Everybody's talking about a recession, or the market's slowing down and interest rates are going up. I mean, usually I don't ask common current event type questions, but how are you? There's always cycles. How do you prepare for something that can be negative?
We put good fundamentals in our business where we don't try to over leverage. I think
Okay.
that's the key. If you don't over leverage, that's a good way to protect yourself. So we try to stay 65% leveraged at the most across our portfolio. Also, you got to have liquidity. You got to have the staying power to survive a little bit, 12 to 24 months of
Okay.
what happens. Because we get construction loans from banks, they require us to keep liquidity in the bank. So we feel safe in the position where we're at. And for people out there, it's like don't over leverage yourself, and don't and keep some liquidity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's huge. And also what I love about apartment buildings is that, you know, when you have one commercial tenant and they go out of business, or they want to, you know, negotiate hard and you have to find somebody else, you could get stuck with a huge cash flow hole in your cash flow. When you have multiple units rented or multiple streams of income, it's not like you're going to lose 35% of the building for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can maybe in certain areas, not in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
probably, but that's kind of a stretch. If like that's happening, then you got bigger problems to worry about.
Yeah. Well, when COVID first happened, we've doubled down on operations,
Yeah.
on our property management, because a lot of people were leaving LA. A lot of people were saying, I lost my job, I'm moving out.
Right.
So we really doubled down our efforts in just keeping good operations and keeping the buildings full. So
Right. Okay.
yeah. But generally, yes, multifamily, it's easy to lease up the buildings. It's easy to keep them occupied. So we're fortunate in that aspect.
It's very interesting. I think last year, a couple years ago, I wrote literally to 2,500 brokers. Like, I wanted to cast a wide net, you know? Some brokers want to be your only, so, you know, their only client. They don't want you going after other brokers. So I was wondering, would you shoot yourself in the foot by spreading a wide net to multiple brokers, or is it better to just find a few brokers that are going to be your bird doggers, and they're going to be the main brokers that represent you?
I think it's a combination of both.
Okay.
And if your go-to guys get offended that you're casting a wide net,
Yeah.
then they're not bringing enough deal flow.
Right.
Because
Right.
if they're bringing you enough deal flow, then you wouldn't have to cast a wide net.
Right.
So what we do is we cast a wide net,
Yeah.
and then we build relationships with the guys who are really hustling for us and really bringing us deals,
Yeah.
and off-market deals. And actually what we do is after they bring us 3 deals and we buy 3 deals with them, we give them a percentage of our ownership.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very motivated.
Yeah, to keep
Honestly,
them
when I
motivated.
looked at your website, I'm like, this sounds very tempting. I mean, a lot of the things you make it good, and it is a partnership, and these
Yeah.
are long-term relationships.
Yeah, correct. Because like we're not going to get wealthy out of building one building.
Right.
We want to build multiple buildings, and we're going to be in this city for decades. So why not build those relationships where these
Right.
guys win with us? They bring us deals. We're the first ones to look at it, and they become our partners. They
Yeah.
win, we win, and we're their first call.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. The way I see it also is, it's not like you're, mom and pop or trying to buy a house and that's going to be your house and then there's no more business with you. You know, if you can find new deals, you find new capital. So you scale yourself that way, and it shouldn't be a competition in a sense. I mean, maybe it's a competition in a timely kind of way, because you don't want 2 different brokers sending you the same deal, because that could be a conflict. But I don't know. I feel like it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, if I found more deals, my investors would invest in both. You know, it's not a if or a then. So, do you feel real estate as an investor, passive investing, is for anybody or a specific kind of person?
Yeah, I think everyone should definitely allocate a percentage of their wealth into real estate. It's tangible. Actually, let me clarify. Into cash flowing real estate.
Okay.
I think a home, yeah, buy your home, but it's not the best investment, because if you leave, homes in Los Angeles do not cash flow if you have a mortgage in it. But income properties, they do cash flow. So what I always recommend my friends, I'm like, yeah, if you have your home, fine. But other than that, buy cash flowing real estate.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a great investment. It's there. It's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
There's always, especially housing, there's always going to be a demand for housing, especially it's like in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's like so hard to build here.
And what's cool about your product is that even if the market changed a little bit, you're still offering prime stuff. So people are still going to want that over something else.
Yeah.
That's kind of we have a project in Carmel by the Sea, and the office market is very strong there. But let's say it was less strong, our product's still the best on the market. So
Yeah.
people are going to still want to come to that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's do some the wrap up questions I ask everybody.
Okay.
I kind of already asked some. It's basically 3 questions. So, what are the hardest lessons you've learned in doing real estate? You've loved it for a long time. So,
Yeah, I'll go back to our first deal. Our first deal to get the financing was 2012.
yeah,
The economy was picking up, but the banks just went through the great financial recession. It was terrible for the banks, and getting our first construction loan. So
Wow.
getting our first construction loan, I called 39 banks. And I got 39 no's.
Wow.
No, we're not doing construction loans. No, you guys have no experience. I'm like, guys, we built homes.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, apartments is a different animal. You guys have never managed properties. And they just kept rejecting us and rejecting us and rejecting us. And I just said, I'm not quitting. We're going to get this construction loan because we had 35% of the capital stack,
Right,
which is
right.
the equity. We're missing the other 65%. And we needed a loan to build it. We had the permits, we were ready to go, and banks just kept rejecting us. And finally, the 37th bank came
Yeah.
back to us and said, okay, we'll give you guys a shot.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's why I say if you're going to do a development, maybe for your first 2 deals, partner up with a developer
Right.
who has experience, because getting the financing, banks don't want to get burned like they did in 2008.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for the first one, it's tough to get the construction financing.
My buddy asked me, why don't we go look at properties when prices are more affordable? I'm like, what's affordable? Like the definition of affordable. I'm like, affordable is relative to your purchasing power. If you think you can go just raise cash when cash is scarce or when banks aren't lending, your affordability becomes harder to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why it's kind of interesting. 2012, trying to get loans, it was not easy.
No.
Banks were super tight. I mean, I think in 2007 and 8, they were already freezing a lot of loans. And that's kind of the problem. A lot of people had balloon payments on loans that they had to pay, and they weren't able to pay them off. So, okay, question number 2, and I sort of saw this somewhere in another interview. You said something about visualization. But anyway, what are your 3 daily habits for success?
So I do have a morning routine. The morning routine is I wake up and so as we talked about earlier, I do a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And in
Yeah.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you have to be flexible.
Mhm.
So I kind of get into my stretching positions just to loosen up the body.
Yeah.
And I do 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 things that I visualize in the future,
Okay.
and then I do some affirmations. So every morning I try to switch them up all the time, so it's not the same ones
Right.
over and over.
How long does when you say 3 things you're grateful for, you just think of them or write them
I
down?
used to write them down. Now I got a little lazier, so I just think
Right.
about them. But I try to do it at least every day during the weekdays.
They say that gratitude, I had a gratitude journal, it's 5% of your happiness or it changes. It was like 90% when I started
Yeah.
doing that. I mean, it changed my whole paradigm of
Yeah.
the way I viewed the world.
Yeah,
Uh,
100%. If you live in gratitude, it's hard to be sad.
yeah, for sure. That's just what you focus on.
And it could always be worse. Like I love this the Stoic philosophy of like, if you're going through a tough time, it's a little morbid, but you can always think about worse things that could happen to you.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
you go back to gratitude. So that works for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then the third question, what advice would you have to a new investor or someone who wants to get into real estate?
I would say, yeah, as we spoke earlier, focus, like figure out what your competitive advantage is, whether it's market knowledge in a certain asset class or in a certain geography, and figure out who your contacts are, your network is, and put that together, and then come up with a business plan. Because look, there's a ton of opportunity in real estate, from houses to apartments to even office. I think there's opportunity in office if you have the knowledge, to retail, what you do. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. Just have to have the know-how, and so first figure out your competitive advantages, figure out your resources, and come up with a good business plan and educate yourself, and never stop educating yourself on it.
Okay. All right. Well, Paul, it's been awesome.
That's it.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have a lot more conversations.
Absolutely.
Like this.
Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. I really like making these. If this video added value to your real estate thinking, forward it to somebody who you think it could help. I have a newsletter that goes out about once a month. Come to my website, signetinvestments.com, SIGNET investments.com.